Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with some more Fiendsmith Mitsurugi. As it's actually been a little bit of a minute since I've played Mitsurugi. Been so focused on a lot of other decks lately, and there's been so many, meta decks coming out so close to one another that it's kind of been hard to give a lot of them the time that I want to. And Mitsurugi is an archetype I really like. So right off the bat, draw phase, we're going to fire off the prayers, and our opponent is in turn going to use a Max C. Definitely love seeing the draw phase Max C because it very much informs me how to play my turn. Namely, I'm going to only give my opponent one draw while still establishing both a negate and a board wipe from the Murakumo here. We're going to do this by using the Habakiri in order to add another copy of prayers and then set it. So now I can use Murakumo to negate, and then of course the prayers to tribute Murakumo and then bring it back by its own effect. However, my opponent's going to set 3 and then pass, so during the end phase, I'm going to activate prayers so that way I can search Aramasa, get my mirror back into the deck in case I top deck a pre-prep, and then I can also search off the Murakumo. The Murakumo is actually just going to grab yet another copy of prayers here. That way I can continue this resource loop. One of the really cool things about Mitsurugi is that not only does it have this explosive combo capability, but it's also able to play this sort of same control resource game that my Sky Striker opponent's trying to play here. We're going to go normal Aramasa. They're going to use a Widow Anchor on the Aramasa effect. Not even going to bother to use prayers here. That's actually completely fine. I would rather save the prayers for a potential board wipe on my opponent's turn. Plus, my opponent still has more back row. I could be walking into those, right? They're going to end up using a Super Poly, discarding Book of Eclipse. So, sort of makes sense why they didn't do much on their first turn, because they mostly had these board breakers that weren't going to do a lot against one Murakumo. They're going into Garura. Note that I summoned Jerusalem in defense mode. That way they can't crash Garura and get a draw. Because I can see that they're not activating Engage and going into 0, get like those kinds of plays, right? So I know that they need access to their Sky Striker cards, and I'm absolutely going to make sure that I deny that. I'm going to start with Fiendsmith stuff here going into the Requiem. They're going to end up using Call By on the Requiem, which is actually perfect. Call By is one of the cards I was most scared of in this situation, and why I didn't simply begin by flipping up my face down prayers to revive the Murakumo. Now that Call By is out of the way, I'm going to do that. I was also thinking it might be the Shark Cannon, right? The Sky Striker card, but alright, we can use the Kusanagi to add one of our prayers back to our hand from the graveyard, because actually all 3 are in there now. Murakumo board wipes the Garura. They're going to go for the draw. I'm going to use the Murakumo negate to make sure that they are not able to get another card. Jerusalem to attack. Go to finish them off. They have a Super Poly. Discarding Foolos is their last card. And it kind of makes sense why Foolos has just been chilling in my opponent's hand this whole time, as I really have not gone into my extra deck. Now I haven't had to that much at all. Now that we look here, we can really see the full scope of what our opponent was on. Sure enough, they didn't have access to Sky Striker cards, and it really makes me glad that I denied them that draw and have just denied them draws off of Maxi and Foolos altogether this game. Jerusalem can take care of the Super Poly target, main phase 2. We have not yet used Habakiri's effect, so I'm going to go Habakiri for Saji, Saji for Ritual, and now we can set up pretty much full combo. I mean, obviously Murakumo's in the graveyard, but we can still summon the Futsu no Mitama, which could then revive the Murakumo later. So yeah, I mean, that's just an excellent example of how Mitsurugi is not all about the combo necessarily. You do have the ability to play the grind game as well. A little bit differently, and obviously you don't necessarily do it in every situation, but in a situation like this where I'm up against Sky Striker, they're on all reactive cards but no proactive cards. I know that because I have Engine and they don't, I can eventually outpace them. Alright, let's take a look at our next duel. Got a going second game here against Vaalmonica, a deck I have not encountered in quite some time. Naturally, these games were played at Master 5, so we're going to see some more off-meta stuff than you might normally. But I like hanging out at Master 5. Let's you see some cool stuff. Alright, they're going to lead with Sengenjin, then set up their Vaalmonica scales before summoning Luri, and that's when I activate my Foolos. And this was very much intentional. Imagine if I had chained Fuelos to the Sengenjin, right? Or even if I had shotgunned at draw phase. My opponent would not have spit out this much engine, right? They probably would have just passed, or maybe if they have a card in hand like a back row or something they can use for disruption, they would have just played that and then passed. But this is one of the main reasons why I love holding Maxian Fuelos. You can force your opponent to commit so much. And now not only do you have the ability to answer these cards, but you also don't have to play this psychological game of wondering if they have a bunch of hand traps, right? When you go into your turn. They're going to normal summon the Celtreese Vaalmonica. I'm just going to imperm it and keep them off of their Vaalmonica spell and trap cards. Basically, I'm saying to them, if you want to make plays, you're going to have to give me draws for it. Now, they're going to end up using the Sengenjin here, going for the Golem. Naturally, that doesn't give me draws, because Fuelos is only from deck and extra deck. Golem is going to summon and then add the Wedju Temple. They go to activate Wedju Temple, and then, to my surprise, they actually Pendulum summon level 4, and it's Fossil Dyna Pachycephalo, so we got a floodgate to play into here, but the pre-prep is an excellent top deck, because I can go normal summon Kusanagi, battle over the Fossil Dyna, and then I can simply go into the pre-prep here. I did actually kind of need the pre-prep in this scenario, because I had the Saji in hand, right? So even if I'd activated Habakiri, I wouldn't have necessarily had access to Saji. And I couldn't normal summon Saji to battle over Fossil Dyna, because Fossil Dyna has 1300 defense and Saji has 1000 attack. So pre-prep was a lucky top deck, but only because I had Saji in hand. If I didn't have Saji in hand, I could have just Habakiri'd for Saji, gone for the ritual, and then it wouldn't have mattered at all, right? So in any case, we were able to push through their floodgate and then proceed to set up, well, get ourselves in a scenario, rather, where we could set up on them and then take the W. All right, let's check out the next duel. Okay, this is going to be a going first game against Blue Eyes, and I have a little bit of a explaining to do in this one here. You could debate if I got a little bit greedy in this game. I'll talk about it here as it comes up in a second, but opening hand looks very, very solid. I'm going to lead with pre-prep. Let's get the Mirror as well as the Habakiri. Now I go Habakiri effect, and they chain Ash Blossom. And you'll note that I let it resolve. I did not chain Called by the Grave here. Here was my thought process, right? I'm looking at my hand and I'm like, you know, I could go normal summon to Aramasa, add Murakumo, then Mirror, tribute the Habakiri for Murakumo. That'll get that on board, and then I can also use the Habakiri to add Ritual. Then I can Ritual tribute Murakumo, summon Futsunobi Tama from deck, and then just basically go into Mitsurugi plays anyway. That was my thought process, plus then, oh, and obviously the other reason to do that is that then I not only don't have to use my call by, but I can still use Ash Blossom on my opponent's turn. There is one thing that punishes this play though, and it's exactly Imperm, which my opponent did have here. I don't know, you can debate if that play was correct or not. Basically the idea is that I made the greedy play, but it only gets punished by pretty much exactly Imperm. I mean, obviously there are other cards that would do it here, but realistically in the grand scope of what you'd expect to see from most decks, Imperm is pretty much the only thing that punished me in that scenario. Now here my opponent happened to have it, but again, was that play, or was it rather not playing Call by on Ash Blossom worth it? I'm still kind of trying to decide for myself. Let me know what you think in the comments below. So instead here, I'm going to use my Ash Blossom on the Ether Barrel to deny them Drill Beam. And then I'm going to use the Called By on the Spirit with Eyes of Blue, which is trying to summon a Blue Eyes from hand. They're going to chain Ultimate Fusion, which will let them fuse that Spirit with the Blue Eyes in their hand to summon Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon. So, good and bad. Good because they're not doing full Blue Eyes combo on me, which is obviously nice. Bad because they are going to get to use Tyrant Dragon to battle over Aramasa and reset Imperm. So I'm going to have to play through that plus whatever else they may have here. Main phase 2, they're going to actually use the Lordly Load effect, and I get to chain my Fuelos, which was previously looking like it was going to be dead in this hand. So glad to get at least one draw and be able to cycle this. Alright, there's the blue eyes, we find an engraver, and they actually end up linking into the spheres after setting another card, which will find me a Lacrima. Alright, drawing for turn, we get a Maxi. Gonna start by activating Engraver, just kind of wanted to see if they had like a call by as the other card they set. Gonna add Tract, grab the Lurie, discard Lurie. Going for the Fabled Lurie effect. And here they're going to use the spheres. Completely fine with me, as I already have the Lacrima in hand. But I'm going to also get to chain the Maxi to the spheres effect, cycling it for another draw. They're going to summon out Blue Eyes Jet Dragon, and here we find Aramasa. Now, this is great. Aramasa is going to let me go into full Mitsurugi combo. The only problem is that I know they have Imperm face down, so we have to play around at least that, and then also probably their other face down card. So here's what I'm going to do. As we just saw, I'm going to use the Tract Graveyard effect, banish to fuse the Lurie and the Lacrima in my hand to summon Fiendsmith Lacrima. Fiendsmith Lacrima revives Lacrima the Crimson Tears. I was hoping that would bait Imperm, but instead my opponent's going to use Majesty of White Dragons to destroy both Lacrima the Crimson Tears and Fiendsmith Lacrima. So they still have the Imperm face down, but I figure I have a way to bait it here. I'm going to use the Lacrima to put back exactly one of my two engravers. That way I can summon an engraver from the graveyard, link it into Fiendsmith's Requiem, which I have not yet summoned, and now I can go Requiem effect to summon that other engraver from my deck. Now I can equip the engraver with the Fiendsmith's Requiem, activate engraver effect, and sure enough, this will finally bait out my opponent's Imperm. Whew, so yeah, I had to jump through a lot of hoops there in order to get through that. But clear path to victory here. Normal Aramasa, that adds Murakumo, activate Mirror, summon Murakumo by tributing the Habakiri in hand. Now, of course, on summon, Murakumo can wipe the Jet Dragon off the field, and the Habakiri can add from deck to hand here as well. Getting to grab a copy of Mitsurugi Ritual. But we don't even need to keep comboing. We have exact lethal on board here, and I know my opponent doesn't have any live effects in the graveyard, so even if they did have a live effect here, we can negate it with Murakumo, and they don't have a card to discard to stop it. So yeah, pretty solid example of, even though I made the greedy play, we were still able to bounce back under cover from it. Yeah, let's go and see our last duel before I show you the deck. Alright, this is going to be a going second game against Maliss for my final duel here. I feel like it's been a minute since I've played against Maliss, although that's probably because I've been hanging out in Master 5, where most people who are remaining Maliss are probably ranked up by now. Gotta love opening Fulos, as well as the Ash Blossom. I'm going to use Ash Blossom on a lure, because I immediately know it's Maliss, and there's not a ton of other great opportunities to Ash Blossom them, necessarily. Plus, I figure if they're on a dead hand, I want to make it so they don't draw into more cards. They're going to go for the backup Administer here, pitching a Fulos to add the Wizard. I'm going to chain Fulos to the summon, so they can't just go into a free link one, and that's actually going to get them to pass, which is excellent. Draw phase, Prayers to play around Droll. We're going to add Aramasa, and then we can use the Mitama effect in order to add Ritual. Standby main, going to start with pre-prep, leading with this in case they do have Droll, getting Mirror and a Murakumo, but they don't, so I'm going to go normal summon Aramasa, add the Habakiri. Basically, I'm just kind of testing for various hand traps right now. Seeing if they want to Ash Blossom, seeing if they want to Droll, seeing if they have like anything else. Because they are getting past priority at this point, but it ends up being for a Magnum Hut, which they're going to use on my Fabled Lurie. Totally fine. I mean, they know I have a bunch of Mitsurugi stuff in hand, so if they want to use the Magnum Hut on a Fabled Lurie, that's completely fine with me here. Mitsurugi Ritual sends Kusanagi and Night Sword Serpent from the deck, letting me summon the Murakumo from my hand. Murakumo gets to activate to board wipe, Kusanagi can add back the Ritual, and then Night Sword Serpent, of course, gets to summon as well. So there's the body, there's the spell back, and there goes their board. Decided to pivot back into Fiendsmith. Just in case, I don't know, they have like another Imperm or something. Or like an Imperm in general. I don't think they've played Imperm yet this game, right? No, they haven't. But turns out it's not even necessary. Dominus Impulse was the other card I was thinking of, but I feel like if they had either of those cards, they probably would have used it by that point. So yeah, that's going to do it for those games. Now let me show you my updated list. Alright, so this is my current list for Fiendsmith Mitsurugi. The main reason I'm at 41 cards is so that I have room for both Magnum Hut and Druiswarm. But if you really wanted to be at exactly 40, you could cut these and play another hand trap, like, I don't know, maybe a Perilia or like a random Ogre or something. I don't know. But we have all the main hand traps here: Joel, C, Ash Blossom, Fuwa, Nib, Imperm, as well as the mainstays for the Mitsurugi and the Fiendsmith engines. I'm not on like a full extended Mitsurugi engine like you'd expect to see in a pure build. I am on like the Futsuno Mitama and the pre-preps with the mirror, but I'm not playing Great Purification, I'm not playing Magatama, I'm not playing Wosu. This build opts to cut all of those in favor of the Fiendsmith engine, which of course plays better into Droll and Lockbird, and opens up some options for end board, like Desiree, namely. But honestly, the Fiendsmith side, I mostly use for just baiting out hand traps, as you mostly saw during those games. Fiendsmith engine is excellent for baiting out hand traps and interactions. I will say though, I've been trying out Code Igniter in my Mitsurugi decks lately. The idea being that it's a rank 4 that can help you go into like ritual stuff, but in a build like this, I think I would ultimately cut it, and even though it never really came up for me a lot beforehand, I still like the idea of playing either maybe like a Caesar or maybe even like the Abawaku. I just like the idea of having Fiendsmith to go into something other than Desiree, potentially, like multiple options for like, you know, follow-up turns, because as you saw, I mean, some of these games with this deck get pretty grindy. Yeah, that first roll really does highlight what I like about Fiendsmith Mitsurugi, and also pure Mitsurugi. This is very true for that variant too, is mostly that, you know, there's really so many different ways you can play out your hands based on whatever situation you're in. Like again, obviously if you're going first, you want the full combo-y end board, but if you need to play it a little bit more slow going second to push through whatever disruption your opponent has, also very feasible, very, very easily. But yeah, really like Mitsurugi still. Still think it's definitely one of the better decks and engines overall in the current format, and absolutely can't wait to continue playing it here. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments below, but that's going to do it for now. So let's go ahead and move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.